Normally we do a bit of a news wrap right now. We're going to delay that a bit because we've got Justin Morgan online from the giddy Gold Coast. Justin, welcome back.
Hello, mate. You're right. That weather sounds hideous compared to what it's like here. The sun's out. It's a little bit windy, but we've certainly got shorts and T-shirts on at the Gold Coast. So it's a nice sunny day here in southeast Queensland. Beautiful.
Tricky fixture tomorrow. How would you describe it?
Yeah, tricky, definitely. I think a couple of things that have stood out for me over the past month. Statistically for them, they've been very good. They're in the top 3 or 4 in terms of completion rates. They're top 3 or 4 in terms of converting field position into points. Their back 5 metres are, again, top 5 in the NRL for the past month. So, while their position on the ladder might, dictate how they've been going for the entire season, obviously, but their last month of footy's been pretty good. They're fast. They're a fast-moving football team. They move the ball well, and their outside backs are speedy. So it's definitely it's going to be a tricky contest for us. We saw that last week when they played the Cowboys, who went on a 6-game winning streak, right. and they got rolled by them.
Yeah, look, they've won 8, they've lost 11, but I've watched a fair bit of them this year. I'm sure you have too, mate. And they just, when they play and want to play, they're a really, really good team. And that showed against the Cowboys, who, as you say, were coming off a tear as well. So, it's one of those games, isn't it? Where is it a reset for you? Is after the bye, has the team kind of stopped and going, right, now we go again?
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, going into that Canberra game, obviously, a few boys a little bit weary, a little bit tired. Obviously it's been a long, hard season. And, when you're winning and, you're playing well, yeah, it's great. But it also adds anxiety and a little bit of pressure and those types of things. So the break came at the right time for us. And we said, look, we need to reset now. We came in on Saturday. The boys had a nice little flush run. They were all in really good spirits. And I thought Monday's training session was one of the best we've had all year. We were able to go out and practice some things that we wanted to improve, and that being, defensively at the back end of sets when teams are sort of in that middle part of the field. We feel our goal line defence has been fairly solid this year, but we feel sometimes we're losing a little bit of concentration later in sets when teams are sort of coming out of yardage and we're not putting enough pressure on them, with field position. So we were able to work on that. We're able to work on a couple of extra little plays that we've been trying to, just jig a little bit. We feel as though what we're doing is working, but we want to add some variation coming into the last 5 weeks with the way we're playing.
May I say, and I don't want to disagree with you, but I think the goal line defence has been outstanding. Could I add to that instead that there's been a bit too much of it and that repeats sets of 6? It's not a criticism, but you know what I mean. Yeah,
no, you're right. It is, when you've got to do a heap of it, there's got to be a reason. You're either giving the ball away or you're not finishing your sets as well as you would like. So, when we've had to put ourselves under pressure, we've really stood up. We've shown, some really good resilience, but we need to do less of that, especially when we get to this time of the season. You're going to tend to find that, as you get closer to September, that, conditions are going to be a lot better, certainly in Australia, for playing footy, the afternoon footy, the sun's out, dry grounds, the ball's going to move a little bit easier than what it does in the middle of June and July. So we don't want to be defending our goal line too much. So, yeah, that's a fair observation, something that we've certainly spoken about.
Justin Morgan is with us. You talk about anxiety and pressure. At the very start of the season, I'm putting words in your mouth. It's about establishing credibility. It's about getting on a winning run. It's about putting a succession of results together. Right now, all of that has changed, though, because when you're sitting there in the top 4 in the table, you've got 5 to go, and these 5 teams are all outside the 8. How does that expectation change for you, Justin, and for your players? Does it mean, hey, look, we're not here just to make up numbers anymore?
Yeah, I think at the start of the year, the key component for the coaches to the players was about getting them to believe that we could do all those things that you mentioned. I think, deep down we felt as though we had a structure and a plan and a style of play that we could, display that and get some credibility back and be competitive, every single week. And I think we've done that. But at the same time, if you fast forward 5 weeks' time and we don't win five games, or we don't, finish as high as we would like, and we fizzle the season out, we haven't really achieved what we want to achieve. What we've done is we've driven ourselves to a really good position. That's what we've done. It's like, if you use a golf analogy, we've hit it off the tee nicely. We're in the middle of the fairway. No point in chunking the next one into the sand trap and taking 5 to get out. So it's really important that we convert what we've done in the past, the 20 weeks of the season. And obviously that's easier said than done, but
sure.
That's what our focus has been. Our focus has been making sure we improve and we take advantage of the position that we're in. Would we rather be where we are than where some other teams are in the competition? Of course we would. So we need to take advantage of that. That's important.
When I talk about expectations changing, maybe making the 8 to start with, but then maybe making a home semi-final. Now there's a chance of top 4. Do you talk about this amongst yourselves?
Not too often, but it's hard not to look at it, and you might have a conversation with another staff member or coaches, but it's not something that we regularly talk about. We don't talk about it in the team or group environment, but look, we're all human. We're all looking at the different scenarios. We win this one, they lose this one. We win that one, they lose that one. What we can't do is we can't take our eye off what the most important part is and what's been working for us, and that's been training hard and making sure that we've got that belief in the group and in our game plan and so forth. So I think what it's done is it's made us excited.
Yeah.
We often talk about, oh, we all want to play semi-finals, Well, we've got a chance now.
Yep.
Let's get excited about that. Let's embrace that extra bit of stress and the extra bit of pressure that's on us now. Let's embrace that. And I think the team's starting to do that. I think they're starting to embrace when teams are trying to take us on a little bit, and know that when they play against the Warriors, it's going to be, a bit more of a difficult game than it maybe has been in the past few seasons. So, we're embracing that, that extra pressure, and I think a lot of our senior players should take credit for that because they're really leading the charge.
Is it a group of 5 games, or is it really game by game? I can't see how you can look at it in this competition other than this team this week, and then let's look at next team next week. And I know that everyone wants a different answer than that, but that's the answer that I would expect from you.
Yeah, and that's the obvious one, and realistically, that's the one that the coaches look at. While we might have one eye on who we play next week, but as soon as you take some kind of pressure off, or some kind of focus off what you need to do this week, that's when a team can come up and they can beat you. And again, look. While we're playing a lot of teams that are lower on the ladder, they've got nothing to lose. They'll go out. There's guys that are still trying to win contracts, and coaches keep jobs and all those types of things. So, it's a really, really tough competition. So I know as coaches, we were only talking about this the other day socially, saying, what's your system? How quickly do you watch opposition teams? And we try not to watch opposition teams that we're playing in a week's time, too early in the week, because again, our focus will be off the team that we're playing this week, and that we might not display that or say that to the players, but it might subconsciously be in some of the things that we talk about. So we make sure we just concentrate on week to week, and then when we get to game day tomorrow, the coaches will start to look at the Tigers for next week. But we haven't started to look at the Tigers because it's important that we stay focused and the players realise that as well.
Justin Morgan with us. Ian Foster was on the program with us a little earlier. I always like asking him this question. I love hearing what he has to say about it. I'm going to put the same to you. Do you have a first 13, a run on 13, or do you have a 17? Do you have it larger than that, or do you believe that that you have to have 20-something players that can all do this job when they are needed to and be called?
Yeah, I think we would have a squad of 20 in our mind that we feel as though that, if they were called on, they'd get the job done. We obviously have preferences. I think all the coaches are very aligned with who we feel are starters in our group and who are really good players to come off the bench. And this weekend's a really good example of it, that the first time all year that we've got all the forwards available for selection. Now, we've had players missing through injury, we've had players missing through suspension, and, Jazz comes back into contention. And if Jazz plays, and he's a really good chance of playing, tomorrow night in the 17, there's going to be a good player that's been in decent form that's going to miss out. And that's going to be hard to swallow, for that player. But it's a nice, predicament to be in, as a coaching group. But I really believe that you need a squad of 20 players that that you can rely on, that you feel as though that if you get to to those important games in September and October, that are trustworthy enough to get out there and get the job done. Sometimes you get one or two that jump out of the box out of that 20, but I think most teams would be saying, look, we've got a real good core of 20 players here that we feel we can get the job done with.
Out of the 12 wins so far this year, give me one or give me a couple of them that say we did this in this game and this in this game, and that is as good as we've been playing this year. Are there other games that stick out of the whole lot for you?
The Sharks game where we came back, I thought that was a really good reflection on our belief in our style and what works for us, and we didn't blow them away in the first part of the second half. We went out, we just went through what we needed to get through, and we knew that our points on the field would give us chances to score tries. So I thought that was a really good marker in the season for us to say, look, this is our system, this is our style, this is what works, and even though we're under scoreboard pressure, we were able to execute it and obviously get away with the result. I thought last week against Canberra, I think if a lot of people were looking at that game, you see Canberra coming over the top of us, which, we weren't obviously pleased with, some of the decisions that we made in the back end of that game, but to lift ourselves off the canvas, when the team's got a full steam ahead and then go down and just nail one set, defensively, which, we limited them to where they kicked the ball. We put a really good kick pressure on. Unfortunately for them, Fogarty put it a little bit too deep. Chance got it in the goal, gave us a 7-tackle set, and we just went into automatic pilot mode in terms of what our field goal set was, and we nailed it. And the clutch play was made by Sean, but it was a great play, the ball from Adam. The play before from Toru to get an extra 4 or 5 metres was a great play as well. Even the positioning of Toru and Walks, where they stood in terms of blocking their pressure man in the route that he had to take to try and put pressure on Sean was perfect, absolutely perfect. So there are a couple of things that I thought that really stood out for us this year, and hopefully the next 5 weeks, the next 5 wins, they stand out for me too. That'd be nice.
It's interesting, Justin, you say that, because I remember that Sean Johnson said after the Cronulla game, the early one, where he said, you sit in the dressing room and he's saying to the players, hey, what if this would be the greatest comeback ever? What say we're talking about that at the end of the game? And the confidence from that, and then when you get gut punched by Canberra and you come back, and again, it's that belief. That is the big change, isn't it? I mean, when you get that self-confidence to say, we're not out of this. That wasn't the Warriors' side last year, mate.
Yeah, I tell you what, Webby's got to take a massive amount of, credibility for what he's created. I remember one of the first team meetings, he spoke to the team and said, look, he believes this team is good enough to challenge for the title. He said, we're not here to make up the numbers. He goes, I don't know if everyone in this room at the moment might believe that. He said, but that's what I believe. He said, that's what the coaches believe, which we did. We went away and we felt as though we really, dug deep in terms of found out what wins games, in the NRL and what our DNA, needs to look like as a Warriors football team. And we said, if we can nail this, we'll challenge. We will challenge for the premiership, and that's what every team wants to do. And since then he's continued to deliver that message. The other thing that I think has been a really important thing for our success this year has been our consistency with our training, our messaging, everything that we've been doing. In and around the club has just been consistent. And, I always love to use a phrase, consistent inputs equals consistent outputs. And if the inputs are good, the outputs can be good. But if the inputs aren't good, it's obviously the opposite effect. So, again, the way Webby set that up at the start of the year was a huge credit to him.
Justin, it's been a pleasure, mate. I could talk to you for another half hour, but I know you're bloody busy. We've been on the phone for the best part of 17 or 18 minutes. All the best against the Titans. Can't wait for the kick-off for this match, mate. And I thank you so much again for being so generous with us.
Mate, anytime, mate. Love chatting. Talk
Good
soon.
on you. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate that enormously, mate. Justin Morgan with us.